Imagine this. It's July 1976, a Monday morning on the French Riviera. A bank manager walks into the underground vault of the Société Générale, one of the most secure banks in all of France. He turns both keys. The steel door swings open, and his stomach drops. The vault is destroyed. Hundreds of safety deposit boxes ripped apart, gold and cash and jewel gone. Wine bottles and half-eaten food are scattered across the floor and spray-painted across the wall in big, mocking letters. A message: sans armes, ni haine, ni violence. Without weapons, hatred, or violence. Someone had tunneled in from the sewers, spent an entire weekend feasting and looting inside the vault, and vanished. And the truly unbelievable part, the mastermind behind it all was a wedding photographer. His name was Albert Spaggiari. Albert Spaggiari was born on December 14th, 1932, in the tiny mountain village of La Ragne-Montéglin in southeastern France. His father died when he was just 3 years old. His mother, Marcelle, moved the family to the coastal town of Hyères, where she ran a small lingerie shop and eventually remarried. Albert hated his stepfather. One of his clearest childhood memories was from 1940, when France surrendered to the Germans. The radio announced an armistice, and the little boy shouted, "That means we've won." His stepfather slapped him hard across the face. That sting never left him. He was a troublemaker from the start. Fights at school, stealing from neighbors, even from his own family. He was expelled from school after getting into a brawl with a classmate. By the time he was 17, Albert had had enough. He ran away from home and joined the French parachute regiment. Here's where it gets interesting. The military didn't straighten him out. It sharpened him. He was deployed to French Indochina during the war. And while he earned decorations for bravery, his old habits followed him. He got caught robbing a milk bar in Hanoi and was shipped back to France in chains. A military court convicted him of what they believed was an armed stick-up, and he spent 4 years in prison. Now, pay attention to this part. Most people would come out of prison broken. Albert came out bolder. After his release, he drifted to North Africa and fell in with the OAS, a far-right underground militia trying to stop Algeria from gaining independence. He even plotted to assassinate French President Charles de Gaulle. That earned him another 3.5 years behind bars. This is a pattern psychologists call antisocial escalation. A person who starts with small acts of rebellion, stealing, fighting, gradually desensitizes themselves to risk. Each time they get away with something, or even survive the consequences, it reinforces a dangerous belief. I'm smarter than the system. Albert Spaggiari didn't just believe it. He was building his entire identity around it. By the late 1960s, it seemed like Albert had finally settled down. He married a nurse named Audi, moved to Nice, and opened a photography studio on the Route de Marseille. He became a charming, well-liked wedding photographer, rubbing shoulders with the wealthy elite. He even traveled with the mayor of Nice as an official photographer. On the surface, he was a reformed man. Underneath, he was studying his next target. It started with a rumor. Spaggiari heard that the sewer system beneath Nice ran dangerously close to the vault of the Société Générale, the bank where the Riviera's richest people stored their fortunes. This wasn't just any bank. It reportedly held more wealth than the top 5 Parisian banks combined. He pulled city planning maps. He studied the sewer layout. He examined the construction of the vault. Walls over 1 meter thick, steel doors 500 millimeters heavy. The thing was built like a fortress, but it had one fatal flaw. The security was designed around the door. Nobody imagined someone would come through the floor. But Spaggiari needed proof, so he rented a safety deposit box inside the vault under a fake name. Then he placed a loud alarm clock inside, set to ring at midnight. If the bank had acoustic sensors or any seismic detection gear, the ringing would trigger it. He waited. Nothing happened. No alarms. No police. The bank's security was so confident in its walls that they never bothered protecting what was beneath them. This is what psychologists call overconfidence bias, the same blind spot that sank the Titanic. When you believe something is unbreakable, you stop looking for cracks. And Spaggiari had just found the biggest crack in banking history. He recruited a team of around 20 men, mostly old contacts from his OAS days, hardened, trustworthy, and used to working in secrecy. Professional gangsters from Marseille actually looked at his plans and turned him down. They thought it was too risky. Spaggiari wasn't discouraged. He knew the right people. For 2 months in the summer of 1976, his crew descended into the sewers of Nice every night. They used rubber rafts to navigate the underground rivers. They strung hundreds of meters of electrical cable for lighting, and inch by inch, night after night, they chipped an 8-meter tunnel from the sewer wall toward the vault floor. And here's the detail that shows you the mind of a true project manager hiding inside a criminal. Spaggiari banned coffee and alcohol during shifts. Every man was required to get at least 10 hours of sleep before each turn. They advanced roughly 6 inches per night. At the end of every shift, they bricked up the sewer wall so city workers wouldn't notice anything. They dispersed rubble into surrounding tunnels. They decorated the tunnel walls with pin-up photos to keep morale up. This wasn't a smash and grab. This was an engineering operation. On July 16th, 1976, the Bastille Day long weekend, when most of Nice was on vacation, they broke through the vault floor. Once inside, they welded the vault door shut from the inside, so even if someone came by, they couldn't get in, and then they went to work. Over the next 3 days, Spaggiari's crew cracked open 371 safety deposit boxes using pneumatic drills and electric saws. Cash, gold bars, jewels, securities. They took everything worth taking. And in the middle of it all, Spaggiari did something no ordinary thief would do. He laid out a meal: wine, pâté, fresh bread. His men sat down inside the vault of one of France's richest banks and had a picnic. Before leaving, Spaggiari spray-painted his now famous farewell on the wall. Without weapons, without hatred, without violence. The estimated haul, 46 million francs, roughly $30 million. None of it was ever recovered. For weeks after the heist, Albert Spaggiari went right back to his normal life, developing wedding photos, raising chickens on his countryside farm with his wife, smiling at neighbors. Nobody suspected a thing. And this is the hallmark of what criminologists call a high-functioning criminal persona. Spaggiari wasn't hiding in a basement counting cash. He was living in plain sight, charming everyone around him, operating on a level of compartmentalization that most people can't even comprehend. He could sit across from someone whose jewels he'd stolen and ask about their weekend with a straight face. Meanwhile, the French police were in chaos. The heist made global headlines. Investigators followed the tunnel, found the gas cylinders and tools, but had no leads. For 3 full months, detectives in Marseille monitored every known crime boss, hoping to catch a whisper. Nothing, but the cracks were forming. One of the crew members got sloppy. His ex-girlfriend, bitter about the breakup, tipped off the police. They arrested him at the end of October 1976, and after a lengthy interrogation, he folded. He gave up the entire gang, including the name nobody expected: Albert Spaggiari, the photographer. The detectives were stunned. Spaggiari wasn't on any criminal radar. He was, at that very moment, traveling through the Far East with the mayor of Nice as his personal photographer. When he flew back to Nice, police arrested him at the airport while he was having lunch at a bar. At first, Spaggiari denied everything. But then, and this is where his narcissism takes the wheel, he flipped. He confessed, not reluctantly, proudly. He explained the alarm clock trick. He walked police through the tunnel. He described every detail like a director giving commentary on his masterpiece. But he never gave up his accomplices. Not one name. He claimed the robbery was to fund a secret far-right political organization called Catena, Italian for chain, which investigators believe never actually existed. It was theater. Spaggiari was building his own legend. Then came the moment that turned him from a criminal into a myth. On March 10, 1977, Spaggiari was in the judge's chambers at the Nice courthouse for a hearing. He handed the judge a coded document, fake evidence he'd fabricated, and while Judge Richard Boaziz was distracted trying to decipher it, Spaggiari walked toward the window, complaining about the heat. He glanced down at the street, saw what he was looking for, and jumped. 8 meters. He landed on a parked car below, rolled off, and leaped onto a motorcycle that was waiting for him. Within seconds, he was gone. According to legend, the owner of the damaged car later received a check for 5,000 francs in the mail for the dent in his roof. Spaggiari was sentenced to life in prison in absentia, but French authorities never caught him again. He spent the next 12 years bouncing between South America and Europe, reportedly undergoing plastic surgery to alter his appearance. He even snuck back into France multiple times to visit his wife and his mother. He wrote a book about the heist, The Sewers of Paradise. He gave interviews. He posed for photos abroad as a mocking salute to the French police. Albert Spaggiari, a heavy smoker his entire life, died of lung cancer on June 8, 1989, in a country house in Belluno, Italy. He was 56 years old. His body was secretly driven back to France and left at his mother's doorstep in years by two unidentified men who then vanished. He died a free man. The stolen fortune was never found. So what does the story of Albert Spaggiari actually teach us? First, Spaggiari displayed classic traits of grandiose narcissism combined with high-functioning antisocial personality. He wasn't impulsive. He was methodical, charming, and utterly convinced of his own superiority. The spray-painted message on the vault wall wasn't just a taunt. It was a signature. He needed the world to know this wasn't just a robbery. It was art. Second, look at the bank's failure. Overconfidence bias blinded them. Their vault was impregnable, so they never installed acoustic sensors beneath it. They never imagined someone would spend 2 months tunneling from a sewer. When we believe something is impossible, we stop defending against it. That's the lesson for every individual and every institution. The greatest vulnerability is the one you're certain doesn't exist. Third, consider why Spaggiari's crew stayed loyal. He never gave up a single name, even after confessing to everything else. This is a classic trait of alpha criminal leadership, loyalty as currency. By protecting his men, he ensured their silence and built a code of honor around the crime. In psychology, this is reciprocity at its most powerful. I protect you, you protect me, and we both walk free. And finally, think about why the public loved him. Spaggiari stole from the rich without hurting anyone. He left a witty message. He escaped from a courthouse like a movie character. He became a folk hero, a Robin Hood figure, even though he kept every franc for himself. This is the halo effect in action. When someone is charming and theatrical, we forgive things we shouldn't. Here's the question that should keep you up tonight. If someone this dangerous can hide behind a camera and a smile in plain sight, how many Albert Spaggiaris are living on your street right now? So let me ask you, do you think Spaggiari was a genius or just a man who got lucky with a very dumb security system? Drop your answer in the comments.